Hello, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is Anya from UniAdvise, and with me we have Vani, of course, and Dhwani. And I am an LBS alumni, and in the last 2 years we have helped 200 plus people with their applications for masters and MBA to top universities, and that's what our niche is. And the aim of this session is very simple because when we were applying, we were very clueless about how to approach scholarships, what really to look at, what do universities look at, how to just time the entire thing, what really matters. And it was just a very blurred area for me, right? And for everyone at UniAdvice. And that's the intention of this webinar, to make you people less clueless, hopefully. And any questions you have throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop a message in the chat box and we'll take it up towards the end. We'll have a Q&A session in a very brief manner. But yeah, the intention is to be very candid and as real as possible with you people. So yeah, I hope you gather some insights via the session, and I'll leave it to Vani and Dhwani to introduce themselves as well.
Hi guys, I am Vani. I'm also the co-founder of UniAdvise and an LBS graduate. I graduated in 2023, and since then Anya and I have been doing this. And we've helped multiple students and gained some experience, and hopefully we'll be able to help you guys out with our experience. Yeah, like Anya said, any questions, just drop them in the chat box and we'll be taking them up towards the end. And Dhwani will be moderating the event before that.
Hi everyone, I'm Thwani. I graduated from Imperial College London with an MSc in Finance and Accounting, and since then I've been helping students through UniAdvise. So let's start this session, and so we'll be addressing the frequently asked questions by students because through for scholarships, and Anya and Vani will be addressing those. So the first question is, when should one apply for scholarships?
Vani, will you be taking it up or do I take it up?
Yeah, I think I can take it up. There are two kinds of scholarships, I think. So, I think I should begin with by introducing the types of scholarships, and then we can get on to when to apply for each of them. So, there are two types of scholarships. One would be, uh, we're talking about scholarships related to that you get from particular universities. So, for the first type of scholarships, you're automatically considered as and when you apply. So, as soon as you put in the application, the school automatically considers you for scholarships. However, what's important to note is that there's a particular deadline before which you need to apply to be considered for these scholarships. Most of these deadlines are around January, so do check out on the school's websites on what the particular deadline is for that particular program or that particular school. Second kind of scholarships are the ones that you can apply to depending on your profile, your background, and just depending on your profile and your background. These scholarships are you are made aware of once you submit in your applications. You will get a mail from the school stating the kinds of scholarships available. Sometimes the schools also tend to tell you about these scholarships once you get the offer in hand. So if you want to know more about it, don't hesitate in dropping a mail to the school to understand their process around the same. For such a scholarship, they have different processes. For example, they might have some particular essays or some video essays that you'll have to send in to be considered for these scholarships. So the best time to apply, to answer Dhwani's question, my first tip is to apply early, apply before January, whatever deadline is for the scholarship application. Second would be to um, to ch- uh, to just check particular deadlines of these schools uh, for the for the external scholarships, I would say. And one high level tip is to just apply as early as you can, because we have noticed a pattern where the earlier you apply, the more the chances of you getting a scholarship.
Correct. And
Great.
to add to that, I think there's also a reason behind that. Because think of it from this perspective that for your seats, right? Usually, most of the good universities do not have any cap on the number of students they're taking in for their particular class size for any particular course. However, when it comes to scholarship, every university has a budget set aside, right? That okay, in this year we'll give out scholarships for this. So naturally, if the budget gets over, then naturally you won't be able to apply for the scholarships, right? And that's why it's always preferred to be applying as early as possible, because that's just correlated to the budget that they have available at that time to give away for the same.
Understood. So, what have you observed in the students' profile and essays that enable them to get these merit-based scholarships?
So, once again, yeah. So, I will say because you do not need to provide anything extra, right, for the first type of scholarships, in which you are just getting the scholarship based on the strength of your initial application that you're submitting to basically apply for that master's program at that university. So, you're not providing anything extra per se. So, it's dependent on the strength of initial application in terms of your CV, LORs, essays, or SOP, whatever is required as a part of the initial application of that university. So, in that regard, one thing that is very important is whatever is important to get into that university in the first place, goal alignment, how can you contribute to that university, what do you bring to the table, how have your prior experiences helped you to make your profile align to the specialization that you are aiming for right now. And in terms of every achievement that you have done, in terms of if you have made any significant contribution in any community service, or if you have any entrepreneurial venture, anything solidifying that just adds value to your entire profile. So it's the storyline of the initial application of your profile, the math of the profile adding up that really matters when you're applying and when you're considering getting considered for a scholarship.
Got it. And how can one apply for the second type of scholarships that Vani mentioned?
So in yeah, take it please.
No, no, you can take it up. I'll take up the next one.
Okay, so in that regard, the second type of scholarships are the ones that you have to apply for, right? This was the first one in which you do not really need to apply it separately. And the process is pretty simple. The way you apply for a master's, along with the offer letter, you get notified of the scholarship. However, second type is that once you make the application, the university usually emails you listing out all the scholarships that they have available, which you have to apply for. And every scholarship usually is centered around a particular theme. For example, for LBS, for example, you have one scholarship around financial need, one is around diversity, one is around entrepreneurship, one is around women in leadership, and so on. Similarly, for other universities, there are different themes, and you are notified it of automatically via the email. You just need to be very proactive in terms of checking your emails, as you should be because you've applied to that university. And you just open that link, you check up what the requirements are. Different universities have different requirements to actually apply for these particular scholarships. For example, LSC has a form to be filled, Imperial has a video essay, LBS has a range of essays to be answered. And similarly, for different universities, the requirements are very different. And in that regard, what really matters is that you have to check which theme your profile aligns with the most. For example, if I'm someone who has made significant contribution in terms of something that enables diversity, right? Or I have been someone who has traveled a lot, for example. So in that case, probably the diversity scholarship will fit in with my profile. So again, what is necessary when it comes to applying in the first place in terms of profile, storyline, formulation, and everything? The same thing you have to do for that particular theme of scholarship, in which you have to brainstorm about why do I deserve that particular scholarship? Why do I, deserve to have like been receiving this kind of a recognition? And answer those questions, video essays or your essays, and after that the university will let you know if you get that scholarship or not.
Understood. Given you've helped so many students now, what is the one mistake that student make that lead them to not receiving a scholarship from the university?
Yeah, so I think one major mistake the students make is they don't put in a lot of effort when they're applying to their safe schools. Basically, so usually students apply to some schools which are very competitive, some schools that they dream of, and some safe schools to make sure that they do have an offer letter in hand if God forbid things don't work out. So there tend to be some safe schools that you feel like, okay, I might consider and I might not consider. But what we always tell our students is to put in as much effort in a safe school as in their dream schools, because if you put in a solid application, only then the schools will see that you really want to go there, and your chances of scholarship will increase. See, like Anna I think mentioned, it's a school will give you a scholarship if they feel like, okay, this person, if they want to incentivize you to come to that school and they feel like your profile fits exactly to what they need, right? So try to show that even to safe schools, even to schools that you feel like, okay, you're not 100% sure about, because that is when scholarships come up. So if you feel like your profile is a little above what the average class of the school, that is when you will be getting a scholarship. So put in 100% effort, write your SOPs well, personalize your SOPs, make sure everything in your application is correct when you are filling in an application for for a safe school as well. And that is where most of the scholarship opportunities come up. And once, if you get a scholarship at a school which is basically maybe one level lower than your dream school, that might be worth considering the ROI, and considering the less fee that you'll have to pay, right? Considering the scholarship, basically. So definitely put in as much effort you put in into any school, into some safe schools as well, and that is when most opportunities for scholarship will arise for you.
Understood. Great. And what is that one thing that students should keep in mind while, preparing for any essay or video interview that they have for a scholarship? How can they convince that comp for the same?
Um, you want to take it up, Anya?
I can. I think one thing that's very important is for you to understand that you're not getting any sympathy points, right, from the admission committee. So if you try to make the entire scenario very emotional and say that, okay, I genuinely need the scholarship, then that's not enough because, yeah, you're not like universities are not seeking people who are very emotional or, who have been through a lot. What is more important is for you to show how you have been through that entire process, you have grown through that entire process and what you have achieved through that entire process. You do not need to victimize yourself, but rather show yourself as a person who has continuously uh, identify the gaps in their environment and use their existing skills and resources to fill in those gaps. That's what a university is essentially looking for. So the minute you are showing yourself as a person who deserves to be there rather than a person who needs to be there, I think that's the biggest tip that I can give to anyone who's drafting these essays.
Understood. And how has UniAdvise's experience been by, with getting their students back those scholarships in top universities?
Um, so I think Okay. Yeah. So I think our experience has been great. We've learned a lot. We've observed some patterns across students. So we can share a few of them with you. For example, I think there are few things which can be considered, or which can increase your chances of getting a scholarship. For example, one of her students got a scholarship at base, and her academics were very strong. She had a 9 plus GPA, and all her grades were very nice, and we made sure to highlight that in her application. There was a separate essay section where she could highlight her essay question for her academic strength, and it was an optional question, but we decided to make sure we're highlighting her academic strength and her strengths there, and that worked out for her, and that's how she got a scholarship there. So what I recommend is highlighting. It doesn't have necessarily have to be an academic strength. It can be anything. It can be some entrepreneurial venture, something that makes you stand out, or some spike in your application. Make sure to highlight that well. Even if it's a great GMAT GRE score, make sure to highlight that well in your application, and that might help you with the scholarship. So that is one thing that I feel should be taken into account. Secondly, one of our students got a scholarship. He had a good profile, but I think what actually helped him as well, so he applied for a program called MSc Financial Engineering at Warwick. And it was a relatively new program, and of course they want to kind of attract students to that program, and hence he was offered a scholarship. So factors like these also impact your scholarship chances. It's not You should also be smart about where you're applying, how you're applying, and how you're putting in your application. And that program perfectly fit his profile, considering he came from a technical background. He was an engineer and he wanted to get into finance. So this program perfectly fits with his profile, and I think that also helps. So that is the kind of cohort they're trying to build. Uh, trying to bridge the gap between engineering and finance, and hence this program took place, right? So try to find programs that exactly fit your profile, that exactly fit what the school is looking for, and that might help you as well. And I think I would like Anya to take up the leveraging part, where you can leverage one offer to the other. And that's I think a great tip.
Right. So, I mean, if any one of you have already applied to the applications to your master's or MBA programs, or you're planning to apply next year, in that case, one very important tip is that what do we do once we have applied to the universities and we actually haven't applied to the scholarships yet? or forget if you have applied or not, even if you have applied and you did not get it at that point of time. So one very cool thing that happened to one of our students was about which we received many DMs also, that how did it happen, because one of our students got a 100% scholarship to study at Berkeley for the MSc in Finance program, which is crazy because imagine studying in Berkeley in Italy for free, right? Essentially. So in that regard, what really worked out for him, I think, was firstly everything that I've mentioned prior, that the strength of the initial application was very in line with what the university is looking for. The values were directly what the university actively promotes. He had certain cool ventures that we had, properly presented. The goal was very well aligned, whatever he had done in the past or whatever he was planning to do. And all of those things, of course, were there. And that's why it wasn't something that he or we, made an extra application for. It was just something that he was awarded for along with the initial offer. And once he got that, we were already waiting for LBS to revert back for the master's program as well. Unfortunately, that worked out too. But at the same time, it was a big comparison that we had to make, because on one hand we had studying at Berkeley for free. On the other hand, it was of course paying the tuition fees and everything for LBS, even though LBS was a better university for him and it was his choice one. But what we did actually was that we used the Berkeley offer to leverage a scholarship out of LBS. And it was just like one email that we draft, though very strategically. It was, certain pointers that we highlighted about why we deserve that scholarship and why LBS is our first choice. Just the entire offer is making the entire choice a bit like like tough for us, and that's how we actually got a scholarship of 20k pounds, 20k pounds, yeah, from LBS. And yeah, that's a very cool thing to do. And at the same time, if you haven't been awarded a scholarship or you missed out the scholarship deadline in any way, still I will say for sure you should email the adcom or the funding department of that university to at least check if there are any scholarships that you can apply for, or just having a coffee chat with them that okay, I want to apply and I'm very keen, and what do I do? And it's very much probable that they can tell you something that okay, do this or do that. And it's always worth giving it a shot, right? Because the master's is a big investment in terms of time, investment, money, everything. So might as well do this one little thing also, if it just means you can save a couple of lakhs essentially on the tuition fees.
Great. So, thank you, Anya and Vani, for answering all these questions. Now, I think we can move on to the Q&A section. If any of you have any doubts or you want to ask something, you can drop that question in the chat and we can take it up.
So we have one question right here. For scholarships, what factors play a major role? So essentially everything that we have mentioned in the webinar already. Two types of scholarships. One you have to apply for after you apply for the initial application, and the second one is that you do not need to apply for, and the strength of the initial application for your master's or an MBA only determine if you get that scholarship or not. So in the first scenario, it's everything that determines you getting an admit in the first place in terms of how well you have researched about the university, how well are you communicating that you can actually add value to that university, what you bring to the table. Are you someone, or have you done your research in terms of what career path you can actually follow after graduating, and whether your past experiences are well aligned with that goal, and any major accomplishments that you have done in the past, because it's not actually the diversity of experiences that you have done, but how much impact you have done in a select few of them, because it's not about doing multiple things in a very brief manner, but rather doing three, four things, but doing them actually properly and making some impact in them. So those are the factors that actually play a role in the initial application, which also play a role in you getting the scholarship. The second one that you have to apply for, it's dependent on the theme that you're applying for. If it's financially, then it's different. If it's diversity, then it's different. If it's something in women leadership, then it's different, and so on. So depending on the theme of the scholarship that you're applying for, you have to create a storyline that is actually impactful in relation to that theme, and draft the entire essay or the video essay or the form accordingly. And that's what really matters. And yeah, as Vani mentioned in point one, applying early, that also plays a role. But
I think we have another question for MBA programs.
Any top schools. So, see, I just feel there are less scholarships for MBAs because MBA is definitely more competitive than a master's program at most schools, not all, but at most schools. So, definitely, and I feel hence for Indian students there might be a little less scholarships, and that's why you've seen less people. But there are, I think, almost all schools offer scholarships, but there are just limited. I think INSEAD has recently increased the number of scholarships that they provide for their MBA program. However, just again to let you know that they are competitive ones. They provide about 22K euro scholarships. So there are about 150, 160 scholarships that they provide in a year, is from what I've heard. So would definitely recommend checking that out. I think Imperial and Warwick also provide some scholarships. They might so a lot of these schools they also have tie-ups with Chevening and Bright Scholar and stuff, and they provide scholarships through them. So you should definitely reach out to this if you want. If scholarships is a main criteria for you, is a very major criteria. I would recommend mailing these schools to understand their scholarship opportunities, and then shortlisting schools for yourself if that is one of the major criteria for you. But I think almost all schools offer them. Just again, like we said, it depends on the competitive level, depends on your profile, and for which school it's competitive and for which school it's not as competitive, and that's where you should be targeting scholarships.
right. And to add to that, one of our students actually got like a 20K scholarship for the MBA program also at Michigan. And I think what he did was also not apply separately, but the initial application only that worked out for them. But again, you cannot really be certain about scholarships ever essentially because it's something that you can only get to know once you apply. So yeah, you can never make a decision about whether you want a scholarship and only then you'll be going to that university and then you'll be applying or not because you can only know once you apply and once you give it a shot. The only advice in that regard is that if you're very sure that you cannot really go without a scholarship, then naturally apply to universities that are not very very ambitious, but something that's like competitive or a bit safer, because the chances of getting like a big scholarship are higher for universities to which you add value, right? So that's really how it works.
Oh, yeah. So one more question for LBS that has been asked by Kanish. Is GRE GMAT necessary for MIM at LBS for scholarships?
So, may, GMAT or GRE is compulsory for LBS regardless. You cannot apply to LBS, MIM or MAM without the GMAT. So, of course, that is a basic criteria that you need to apply. And an exceptional score can definitely strengthen your profile and maybe help you towards a scholarship. But of course, GMAT, GRE is a necessity to even apply to LBS.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vidushil has another question. How much does GPA matter for scholarships? Can other factors compensate for not so exceptional GPA?
To take that up, honestly, I don't think GPA really matters when it comes to getting an admit in the first place. Like, so every university has a minimum requirement. Once you check the university page, you'll find a section called admission requirements. It usually mentions what the GPA requirement is for that particular course. So all you have to do is match that minimum requirement. For example, for LBS, it's 6.98 out of a 10. At the same time, for Imperial, it's 7.5 for most universities. So do check for your particular university, but yeah, for most universities, it's a 7.5 out of a 10. So similarly, every university has a minimum criteria, and if it has that, just see if you check that up. If you match that criteria, then you're good to go to apply to that university. And then getting in depends actually on the other factors. Because, for example, I had a 3.43 out of a 4, which I would say is not a very good GPA, right? At the same time, a dean's list from my very course at NMIMS who had a 3.87 out of a 4, he also got into the same program at LBS as I did. So essentially, I think, and out of all the other students also that we have helped, it honestly doesn't really matter how high up the GPA is. Of course, it puts a positive bias in the head of the adcom, but at the same time, it more so depends on the other factors in terms of your professional experience, your interpersonal profile, and your GMAT GRE score as well.
Perfect. So we have three more questions in fact.
So
Um,
we unfortunately have less time for three questions, but we'll try to take as many as possible. And if you have any other questions, that you need answers to, feel free to book a call via our website. I'll send the, your like website link onto our group chat over here, onto the meetings chat over here. And if you have any questions, feel free to book a call via that or text us on WhatsApp. All the details are available on our website. But yeah, we'll, just like I'll stop with this and just try to
Try
come.
to take up as many as you can. Yeah. So I can take up the next question by Surya, where he's asking drafting cover letters for scholarship, which ask to fact factually explain your financial situation. Uh, Keeping in mind that uni has mentioned admissions committee and financial committee does not go hand in hand during evaluation. So just so I think what you mean is to how to show your financial situation. So of course there are two types of scholarships. Like if you want to categorize it further, one would be financial need based scholarships and one would be merit scholarships. So for if you're talking about financial need based scholarships, I think uh, we need to be very, like, one main tip is to be very very honest about it, because they will definitely ask you for proof if sooner or later. So just be very honest about your financial situation, about how you're planning to sponsor it, and about your family income, about your personal income as well. So just be very very honest about it. If it's just asking you for factual information, be to the point, just give what they're asking for. And if you actually qualify for a financial need based scholarship, then you will be considered for it. But don't try to manipulate numbers, or don't try to oversmart them, because they definitely know more than you, and they're smarter than that's smarter than that. So just don't try to oversmart them. However, I don't recommend focusing a lot on your financial status unless you're sure you qualify for a need based scholarships. In your main essay or in your admissions committee essay, there I would recommend focusing more on your academic strengths, focusing more on your profile strengths, and why you deserve to be at the particular why you deserve to be in the particular program at the particular school. I hope that answers your question. For the next one,
Okay, another question. When it comes to factors for securing a scholarship, does age play a role? I've heard that students over 25 are generally not preferred. No, that's not true actually, because there are different programs for different ages, right? For example, masters, you have a pre-experienced masters for people with under 2 years of experience. At the same time, you have a post-experienced masters for experience over 2 or 3 years, right? So in that regard, any post-experienced master's program is generally for people who are generally above 25 and over. So it's not like you do not have any scholarships available for people over 25. It's like genuinely course specific. So, for example, if it's uh, Warwick Business School, for example, so they have different scholarships for MBAs, they have different scholarships for masters. So it's not correlated, the pre-experience or the post-experience master scholarships for any university.
I think Sheen's question was around MBA, because of a previous question was also around MBA. So I can take that up now. I don't think that's true again, because for an MBA, the average experience that they, even though the minimum experience that they mention is 3 years, average class experience is around 5 to 6 years. So which is about 25, 26 years old, right? So that is not true, and I don't think, and the age is a factor. There are number of years of experience could be a factor, and for that I think 3 to 5 is the right amount of experience to have. And if you've done something exceptional in these 3 to 5 years, that might help you out, but I don't think age is a factor that is considered per se.
Right. And the next question would be safer score for GMAT if targeting Ivy League or below universities. Okay, so usually out of the three profiles that matter, your academic, professional, interpersonal. The three profiles that matter broadly when you're applying to any university outside India. Out of that, the academic profile, of course, considers your undergrad GPA, and the second thing is GMAT GRE score. In that regard, for any university requiring GMAT GRE on a mandatory basis, an ideal score is considered a 655 in the focus edition if GMAT is the one that you're going for, and if it's GRE, then usually 323 will put you in a safe zone. At the same time, even for universities that do not require GMAT GRE on a like mandatory basis, however, you have a low GPA, right? Like for example, for any university that says we prefer a 201 equivalent of the UK credentials, which is equivalent to a 7.5, and you have a GPA of 7.3. In that case, even for a university that doesn't require GMAT GRE on a mandatory basis, I personally prefer if it's better to have a GMAT GRE score in hand. Oh, okay. The ask question
Do
now.
we have time? Do we have time to take up?
Yeah, we have already let them know that any other questions, feel free to book a call via UniAdvise.in or reach out to us on WhatsApp essentially. But yeah, we have 3 minutes remaining, so let's just try to wrap up as possible.
Okay, do you feel any country university has more inclination for scholarships and funding? I personally don't think so. Anya, do you or Dhwani, do you think so? But I don't
Yeah,
think
I
that's
do actually. No,
uh, feel
actually,
free to-
but no, but okay, so it's not like, but universities have patterns, I feel. I think that's a better way to put it. That for some universities, for example, Spain, right? The top three universities in Spain are IESE, IE, and SRD. And it's like broadly known that if you're applying before, for example, the application deadlines for the next year's intake, 2026 August intake, open up in October of the previous year, 2025 October essentially. And if you're applying anytime before January of 2026, then the chances of you getting a scholarship are very, very high. So there's some universities that are very liberal in terms of giving a scholarship, and some universities precisely. But at the same time, yeah, I think it varies. Like there's some patterns that you can observe here and there, but if we end up listing those patterns down, then the list will be never ending. And I think it also depends on what course you're targeting, what your profile is. So it's not a one size fits all answer if it makes sense, but yeah, it's more or less dependent on what your profile is and the chances of your profile getting a scholarship in which country. Because there are also some preference that universities have. For example, some universities have a strong preference towards those with entrepreneurship backgrounds. At the same time, some universities strongly prefer those with a marketing background and so on. So it like universities also have some personal preferences, which once you're aware of, you can actually check whether like what your chances of getting a scholarship for that particular university are.
Okay, I'll just quickly take up Ishita's answer. It's a short one. So, Ishita, for any school, whenever they mention the minimum criteria of years of experience or maximum criteria for the same, it's always to the start of the program. So, if they say that you need 3 years of experience, then they mean 3 years of experience by the time you start the program. However, just for MBA, just a heads up that even though they mention the minimum criteria to be 3 years, the average class experience is usually 5 to 6 years. Of course, if you have exceptional things in your application, your work experience, your GPA, your GMAT, GRE are exceptional, then of course you can give it a shot. But usually the average work ex for an MBA is 5 to 6 years, and when they say minimum or maximum 3 years experience, they mean by the start of the program always.
All right, I think we should
Yeah.
ideally, stop right here. And thank you so much for attending the webinar. We'll be hosting similar webinars soon, so keep following us on LinkedIn and showing the love that you always do. And we hope to have more such webinars to just share the insights on the entire process, whatever we could learn and whatever we have been offering to the students as much as possible. And yeah, keep following us and stay tuned for more webinars. And if you have any other questions that you want answers to after this webinar as well, always feel free to just check out our website and